With all the chatter surrounding Donald Trump's recent abortion comments, many on the right have been lamenting the fact that we don't have a true abortion abolitionist on the ballot this November. However, today I have the privilege of interviewing Joshua Smith, a self identified abolitionist running in the Libertarian Presidential primary, proving that abolitionists do, in fact, have an option on the ballot. Today, I hope to ask Joshua questions about his candidacy and how he would hope to govern on numerous topics. All this and more, so stick around. Welcome to Forge and Anvil, where we hammer out uncomfortable conversations to sharpen ourselves for the cultural, political, and spiritual war that we are living in. My name is Connor. I am host of this podcast. I am a husband, a father, and a follower of Christ Jesus, doing my best to represent him well wherever I go. As I already mentioned in the intro, I am joined by presidential candidate Joshua Smith. So, Joshua, go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Also a husband, father, and follower of Christ. Big time. Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'm also the host of a podcast called Break the Cycle with Joshua Smith on Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 7:30 p.m. Central Time live. Candidate for president for the Libertarian Party. A little bit different than what they're used to, but we're doing really well in the polls leading up to the national convention next month, where we could possibly get the nomination be on all 50 state ballots. We're very optimistic about about our chances there. Outside of that, I'm blue collar working class guy who's been through the same issues as everybody else in America. Really, the largest cross section of Americans are blue collar working class Christian people just trying to struggle through life with an oppressive state that continues to kind of have their will with us, and I got tired of it, so I'm ready to fight back.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited for this interview. Glad to have you on here. Before we get started, though, for those of you listening, feel free to go on over to forgeandanvil.substack.com. That is our home. That's where I post all of the episodes of the show. I post some additional content, including our In the Van segments, where I break down a short news story in about 20 minutes or less from my minivan, hence the name. And of course, I do my own writing as well, and I put it up there. So feel free to check it out. You can subscribe for free, and you can also do a paid tier if you want some additional content. And we are live on X, YouTube, and Rumble, so go ahead and share this stream wherever you can find it. It will be live on my profile, so feel free to repost it. And if you are sending in chats over on X, for some reason they do not integrate well with my setup here. The program that I use, it does not read your chats very well on X. So if you are sending us chats over and over and we miss it, sorry about that, but feel free to jump on over to Rumble or YouTube, and we will get to as many chats as possible as it is relevant to the conversation. And if we have a whole bunch, we'll save them all to the end and just do a whole segment of chats. So we'll just see how that goes. But anyways, that being said, laundry is out of the way. So Joshua, again, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. As I mentioned in the intro, abortion has definitely been in the news cycle with those of us on the right. And I say the right, and when I define the right in this instance, I just mean anyone who's not on the left. So that would include libertarians, disaffected liberals, right-wing Christian conservatives like myself. But the right is just upset that there is essentially no true abolitionists on the ballot. Donald Trump has issued some statements. Now, I've already defended Trump in some regards because I think Trump is as pro-life as Reagan and Bush and others. I think he has put his foot in his mouth with some of the comments he's made about Arizona's recent law. But either way, I'm not happy with his stances. He's definitely not where I want him to be. I myself call myself an abolitionist, but let's go ahead and start there. So you call yourself an abolitionist. When these comments came out, I saw you posting all about how you are the only abolitionist on the ballot. So tell us a little bit more about your views on abortion, abolition, and all that.
Sure. So I'm also there is a Abolish Abortion PAC, political action committee, that I am the only endorsed candidate by the Abolish Abortion PAC currently in the United States. So when I say that, I mean it. I mean, I am the only abolitionist candidate that is running in the United States today. I find this practice to be abhorrent, archaic. We have cultivated a society that celebrates the death of unborn children or preborn children. Okay. We need someone that's willing to stand up to that. And this, this is just more of the left winning the war on language. This whole, oh, well, it's not murder. It's just a clump of cells. It's, oh, an embryo, which, by the way, whenever somebody brings up an embryo, okay, in this situation, my first thought is this person has put absolutely no thought whatsoever to this debate, because the embryo stage lasts for 4 days. Nobody knows they're pregnant yet before it's no longer an embryo.
Right.
So, like, we've allowed the lunatic left, and I've said this repeatedly, we've allowed the lunatic left to win the war on language on all kinds of topics, not just the abortion topic, but absolutely the topic of abortion, which I refuse to even call abortion anymore. I just call it baby murder, because that's what it is. That's absolutely what it is. And we have to continue. We have to fight the war on language, okay? And when you brought it up in the beginning, this cultural war, the spiritual war, this is the absolute truth. I talk a lot about politics because I'm running a political campaign. I've worked in politics since 2008 when I worked on Ron Paul's campaign for president. The truth is that there's much bigger wars than just the political war going on out there. One of them is absolutely the spiritual war, and one of them is absolutely the cultural war. We cannot win on these ideas right now because we're not fighting the cultural war. We're only fighting the political battles. And so, like, I'm trying to change the culture, right? Like, I'm running as a libertarian. I know it's an uphill battle, okay? I understand that people are going to go, oh, well, he can't win, so we're not going to vote for him. But we do have the opportunity to do a 50-state media tour and be on 50-state ballots, okay? We have a better opportunity to be on 50-state ballots than RFK Jr. does. In fact, we believe he will come and try and steal our ballot access at some point, because he's learning that it took us 50 years to get 50-state ballot access, and it costs $100 million a year, for somebody as an independent to get ballot access. So I want to use that to go out and push these messages, this anti-war message, which I think is it's got to be important to the right at this point, especially the dissident right and the Christian right. I mean, at some point we have to go, hey, God doesn't want us fighting in all these wars around the world. You know what I mean? Like, we have to understand that. And we have to understand that, like, we can't be a smaller, smarter, conservative government if we continue to spend trillions and trillions of dollars on a war machine that benefits nobody in the United States. And it's the same thing with the abortion and the Federal Reserve and all my talking points. The separation of families is something that I talk about a lot. The Title 40 of the Social Security Act was signed into law in 1971. What it's done is it subsidizes the states to separate families. We've gone from 1 in 60 children living in a fatherless home to 1 in 4 just since the 70s because of this policy. All of these things, all of these policies that the government has put out are all centered on attacking the culturally strong family. I mean, all of them. And people will be like, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. I'll be like, really? Is it? Warfare, the war on drugs, the war on self-defense, the war on babies, the war on families. Like, you're telling me that none of this stuff adds up to you? Because it absolutely 100% is happening right now in front of our faces. And it's undeniable. And I mean, the stats back me up, they're undeniable stats. So this is, the abortion thing for me. And like I said, it's baby murder. It's what it is. We can't continue to seed language to the lunatic left that it is in like a murder cult at this point when it comes to babies. 1 million dead babies a year. That's a murder cult. Okay. We can't continue to seed language to them. We have to stand strong on our principles. We can't say, well, little baby murder as a treat is okay as long as it helps us get elected. Like, we have to stand really, really strong on this issue, because this is one of the most disgusting issues of our time. And it's one that we're losing. And we're going to continue to lose as long as we make compromises on it. Look at every single compromise that has been made between the Republicans and Democrats. All the worst bills in the United States always have bipartisan compromise support, okay? The gun bills, the abortion stuff, I mean, all of it. Everybody's like, oh, well, Roe versus Wade, being overturned and being kicked back to the states, that's going to have less dead babies. And it's like, no, we're actually codifying it now into like state constitutions. Okay. So Ohio has now codified it into their state constitution. New York, California, these people can now kill babies up to birth. We're not winning. There is no less baby murder today than there were before Roe versus Wade was overturned. We need someone to come along and say, look, murder needs to be prosecuted as murder. And that's what it is. And so, I have a very strong belief on this. I refuse to cede the language war to the lunatic left on these issues, because they're not intent on building strong families. They're not intent on having a strong cultural identity in the United States. They're not intent on any of these things that make Americans Americans. And I refuse to lose the fight. And so I need more people to come and back us up and start, doing these same things and being brave and proud about it. And Trump's not going to do it. I hate to be that guy. I don't want to sit here and diss Trump my whole show. I'd love to get on a debate stage with Trump and tell him, like, I've been watching you since you were on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous when I was a little kid, my man. I know you're a New York liberal. I know he's not pro-life. I know that he's not pro-life. I know that he's not, build the wall anti-immigration like he ran on. I know that he's not going to actually end the ACA. And he said it absolutely just recently. Oh, I don't worry, everybody. We're just going to make a better ACA. We're not going to get rid of the ACA. I mean, that was the whole thing he ran on in 2016 was abolishing the Obamacare Act, right? So I want the people of America, the good people of America, to have someone that they can vote for with their conscience and go to bed at night and go like, yeah, I voted for the guy that wants to get rid of this disgusting practice of baby murder. I voted for the guy that absolutely wants to end the warfare state. I voted for the guy who wants to start dismantling the Federal Reserve that is, a giant counterfeiting machine that steals our wealth through a tax called inflation so they could prop up the warfare state. I'm the guy that's actually would be doing those things should I get elected, right? So I want to give somebody, the principled vote. Like, at the end of the day, I can't vote for people and then go to sleep at night knowing that I voted for somebody that's absolutely direct, defiance of my principles. I can't do that. I know that there's other people in the country that can't because 61% of the population didn't vote for a presidential candidate in 2016. Okay. So I'm trying to reach the remnant, these people that are like still very, heavily oriented into these family values and understand that baby murder is bad and understand that the warfare state is not helping Americans and that inflation is crushing the middle class and destroying families. And I'm looking for those people. Those are people I'm going after. And I can't do that by compromising and being weak on my language. And it just doesn't work.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that you've laid that all out. I think the thing right now, and I'm going to be 100% transparent. Just this last week, I had Andrew Isker, aka Boniface Option, on the show, sure. and we talked all about whether or not Christians can still vote for Trump, and ultimately we were mostly making the argument that you can. Now, I personally think it's one of those things where it's a matter of conscience. If your conscience is telling you not to vote Trump, I think that scriptures talk a lot about conscience. I'm not going to tell someone that they have to vote for Trump over their conscience. But the reality is, and this is the hard place that I find myself in, is we live in a situation where, in my mind, we only have a few years left as a country if things continue at the rate that they are going underneath Joe Biden. Between the entire state worth of Tennessee, that's only the ones that we've counted, have gone through the southern border. I mean, that's atrocious. We're talking millions and millions of people coming through the border underneath Joe Biden. And then you factor in the fact that I think if the Democrats were to win all three branches of government, I think they would probably institute some serious changes that would be permanent to our country, such as DC statehood, Puerto Rico statehood. Now, they didn't get to last time, but if you all remember, we were relying upon Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin to not cave, and I'm surprised they didn't with the pressure campaign that was levied against them. But DC statehood, cracking the Supreme Court, all these horrible kind of game over scenarios that could take place should, they flip both houses of Congress and keep the presidency. So, I'm ultimately looking at this as the runway is running short. And so to some degree, I think a Hail Mary pass is attractive, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself, is it the most prudent option? And so that's really the thing that I've been wrestling with. For my part, I'm pretty optimistic about a lot of the things that I've actually seen on the ground. I see a lot of individuals asking questions, waking up. A lot of people are finding faith again. A lot of people are diving into Christianity and really understanding proper doctrine. And I think in time, if those things could take place, I think that we could genuinely see a real turnaround in our culture and our country if we have enough time to allow that to happen if our country can survive long enough for that to happen. And then the only other real threat to it is, of course, the immigration. So in my mind, I just know that the first thing that we need to do is just close the border. We need to remove all illegal immigrants. And sorry, I know that libertarians don't like this. I don't know how you are, of course, Joshua, and you can tell me in a moment here, but I really think that we need to have a deportation operation. I think that there's a lot of illegals that are here in our country that should not be here, and we need to prioritize the American citizen first. But anyways, I'm going on a soapbox here, all to say that as of right now, I am probably going to vote Trump. But I wanted to have you on because I'm okay with being convinced otherwise, first of all. But beyond being open-minded, I think that there are individuals who, again, their conscience will not allow them to because of some of the comments that have recently come out. And so I wanted to present them with an abolitionist option. Now, I myself, again, consider myself an abolitionist. I'd be curious to hear how you define abolition. What is an abolitionist, I should say. So feel free to respond to anything that I say, and then I'd love to maybe pull on that thread a little bit more.
Sure. Well, I just think that we need to end the practice of baby murder. I believe that people who commit murder need to be prosecuted and put in jail. Look, people are always like coming up with all these crazy questions about like, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, what about this? And it's always comes down to like rape or incest or something like that. And I'm like, look, we're not in the business of killing the innocent children of criminals. Okay. That's not something that Americans do. It's not something that Christians do. Okay. In a nation that claims to be 70% Christian, we should abolish the practice of abortion. I mean, entirely. This is an asinine thing to even be having this huge wedge debate about in the United States when, I mean, 1 million babies a year are killed and less than 1% of those are due to rape, incest, or medical necessity. Okay. Yep. I think there's an argument somewhere in there to be made for medical necessity to save the life of a mother. I think that if a mother has an absolute is going to die, then there's an argument to be made. But outside of that, I just think that it's needless killing of an innocent person. Okay. And it needs to go away. It needs to be completely abolished. We don't need to say it's okay sometimes. We don't need to have like a debate on when a baby becomes viable or when it has consciousness or any of that. It's, especially as a Christian, we understand life begins at conception. Okay. And there's a new, completely separate life growing inside of a woman, and a woman, has the right to her own body, not the right to another. And the preborn child is another human being growing. And just because it has to have a mother to survive doesn't mean that you get to kill it. And, this is always the other argument too. Well, if I'm just a host and it needs me to survive, then I have the right to do this. I'm like, look, I have 7 children. Okay. I have 3 that are 3 and under right now. They couldn't survive without me. They couldn't survive without their mother right now. And I tell you what, there's no way in hell anybody is ever going to stand there and go, you should have the right to kill that baby because it can't survive without you. That's the dumbest argument I've ever heard from anybody. Right. And so, I mean, I'm full on abolition. I want the practice ended. I want people to have the opportunity to vote for somebody that says that's the guy that wants to end all of this terrible stuff that's been going on since, Margaret Sanger started setting up Planned Parenthoods in the United States. People are like, oh, well, then it's going to become dangerous. Good. Murder should be dangerous. It shouldn't be normalized. It shouldn't be legalized. It should be dangerous. It's the same with the self-defense laws, right? Like people are like, oh, well, yeah, it might be dangerous if you have a gun and someone breaks into your house. Yes, I know. I want it to be dangerous for them. I want them to think twice before they break into my house, as I would want a mother and an abortionist to think twice before they kill an innocent preborn baby. So, that's what I want. I want it to be dangerous. I want there to be a national unity around this issue, and that we will no longer stand for the murder of preborn children, period. Plain and simple. No heartbeat bills, none of this stuff. It's over. No more. You go to jail if you kill a baby.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think something right now, and you might be able to tell me more about this, especially since you have that endorsement from an abolitionist PAC. I think right now the messaging of the abolitionists over the last couple of weeks has been poor, and the reason why I say poor, and when I say abolitionists, I should say kind of the bigger talking heads of the abolitionist movement has been poor. For example, I have been dragged through the mud for asking questions about what's politically possible. And what I am constantly frustrated with is there's this purity cycle where people are saying, I'm not a true abolitionist. So I would define abolitionist as someone who wants equal protection under the law. They want all abortion to be ended, period, no exceptions. They want actual justice to be done to those who commit abortion, whether that be the mother, that be the abortionist, or that be the father who consents to it. I think that they should be charged for murder. And I think the courts can, of course, decide whether or not it was, a young girl that was completely indoctrinated by all the propaganda around it. Sure, she can have a lesser sentence than a mother who, you see videos of these moms that are literally like, I'm going to go abort my baby. Like they're actually celebrating it. And it's like, okay, those are the ones that lock them away, throw away the key.
Literal potbelly vampire goblins, dude. I hate these evil
100%. 100%. But I think the thing that's frustrating right now is, so I was actually speaking with Tyler Boyer, who's a guy from Turning Point, and I was asking him because he's like a fifth or sixth, maybe even seventh generation Arizonan, and Arizona is the state where I came from. I'm no longer there, but I lived there for several years, and I was asking him because of the Arizona abortion ruling that came down from the Arizona Supreme Court. He was talking about how they should try to pass a heartbeat bill, and the reason for it is there's going to be an abortion. Basically, there's going to be on the ballot. I don't know what the exact legislation around it is, and you may know this. And if you do, feel free to chime in. But basically, on the ballot in Arizona, they're going to ask kind of a yes or no question about whether or not abortion should be allowed up to a certain point. My guess is it's probably going to be somewhere in line with Roe. And so Tyler was basically making the argument that they need to counter signal by immediately putting out a heartbeat bill. Because I asked him, do you think a full-on abolition bill could pass in Arizona? He thinks it's politically impossible. Now, just for asking that question, notice I did not endorse a heartbeat bill and say a heartbeat bill is what's going to satisfy me. I want full abolition. But for asking the question, I have had multiple abolitionists attack me and say I'm not a true abolitionist for wanting to celebrate incremental wins. Now, I'm not an incrementalist in regards to I want to push it as far as possible. I think the difference between me and a pro-life person is usually a pro-lifer will stop at the exceptions. They will provide exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother, and they will not want to actually prosecute the mother and the doctor performing the abortion and the father who consents. Whereas I believe that there should be that prosecution. So that's where I would say I differ. So in my mind, my end goal is the exact same as the abolitionist movement, but I feel like right now there's a purity spiral going on in the messaging to where you're not even allowed to question whether or not something is politically possible. And to me, it comes across as if you are standing in front of a burning building and you know that there are 5 people in the burning building, but you only have enough time to rescue 2 out of the 5. It feels like the abolitionists are saying, well, that's not good enough because I want to save all of them. So they cross their arms and do nothing. That's what it comes across, because I have had people tell me that I am a sinner and a coward for wanting a heartbeat bill in a state like Arizona that currently, basically the ruling that the Supreme Court just laid out is going to go away by the legislature and by the governor. And so basically abortion's probably going to be at least into the end of the first trimester in Arizona. So in my mind, a heartbeat bill would at least be a step in the right direction. I'm not satisfied with it. But so that's the frustration of the messaging that I keep hearing. It's an absolute all or nothing approach. And my frustration is I want the all, but I want to actually get to the all. And in my mind, if you can't do that politically, your only option is hot warfare. I don't want that. Obviously, I don't think abolitionists do either. But if you can't politically make abortion illegal and you're not willing to take incremental steps to actually get there, then what is your only option if you don't have the political power to do it? And so, I mean,
Mike,
I'd love
here's my concern about that. And I kind of touched on this in the beginning of the show, is that it's this constant compromise is how we are to where we are today. Okay. We had more abortions over the last 8 years than we did under Obama. Okay. So it's growing, even though we're getting these incremental wins, Roe versus Wade being overturned, kicking it back to the States. I mean, it's still 1 million babies a year. So at some point we have to go, okay, well, hopefully, maybe some of these incremental things win. Okay. That you see as kind of like a compromise, but I'm not out there. I'm not going to go out there and use that language, because And the reason is because the compromise is what led us to where we are today. Okay. Prior to Roe versus Wade and all this stuff, I mean, abortion was dangerous, and it should be dangerous, and then it was compromise after compromise after compromise. Then it became this issue of women's rights. Women should have the right to kill a baby, and this and that and this and that. And it's like, that's how we are where we are today. And this is like, that's why I can't even work inside the Republican Party anymore, right? Like I worked on Ron Paul's campaign in 2008. Okay. I got out of the military. I'm a Operation Iraqi freedom veteran. I joined right after 9/11 to go protect my country from the evil terrorists. Okay. Within 9 months, I was at war in Iraq going, what the hell's going on here? Right. It was like compromise after compromise, and kept getting us in all these new wars in the Middle East and all this stuff. And I came back and I was like, look, I can't vote for more warfare. Like, I can't vote for the party of George Bush and John McCain anymore. And then I found Ron Paul in like 2007. I got out in 2005. And I found Ron Paul, and he was speaking directly to me. I'm like, this is the perfect statesman. This man is everything that I want to see in our country. This is like what we should value and cherish. So I worked on his campaign, and I watched the way the GOP treated him. I mean, this man who was unwilling to bend or break on his principles and saying, this is what we have to do to take our country back, for the lunatic left, basically, or the socialists, right? And they treated him like the whipping boy. And they do the same thing to any of the good Republicans in the House today. I mean, you look at people like Rand Paul and Thomas Massey, and when Justin Amash was there. I mean, these are really great, wonderful people who fight very hard for liberty, and they're laughed at. Okay. So, like, at what point do we start our own movement and say, okay, we're not dealing with this Republican Party anymore. They haven't given us what we want. They continue to bend and break on all the important issues to us. And like, this compromise is how we got here. It's how we've gotten a Republican Party that doesn't serve the will of its constituency anymore. It's because it's the constant, like, okay, well, we got to take a little loss here so we can get a win here. We got to take a little loss here, and so we can get a win here. And like, I'm tired of doing that. There was, and you brought up immigration. I'm not an open borders advocate as a libertarian. I know that it makes me a little different than other libertarians. I believe that there's a huge difference between productive immigrants moving to the United States to work and be a productive member of society, and importing the entire third world. Okay. I think importing the third world is not helpful to a cultural identity, and the United States deserves to have a sovereign cultural identity. They deserve to have that. There's no other nation on earth that these lunatic lefts people are advocating to open their borders and let them flood with illegal aliens. Okay. They're not doing it they're not advocating for Israel to do it. They are not advocating for Japan to do it. They're not advocating for Korea to do it. They're only advocating for the United States to do it. And I think that's wrong. I think that we should be allowed to have our own sovereign nation if we want to have one. And, opening the borders and letting everyone in you don't have a sovereign nation anymore. So, but to bring it back to the point of immigration, I believe that we do need to, shut the borders and vet people and make sure that the quality of people that want to move here are good quality people that are going to contribute to society. Obama deported and stopped more illegal aliens coming through than Donald Trump did in his 4 years. Okay. And he did that in his first 4 years, Obama, and then Trump in his first 4 years comparatively. So like, it didn't change under Trump to Biden. I mean, we're still dealing with this same issue. It's all by design, and it's going to continue to be by design. And I don't believe that Trump can stop it. I don't believe that he has, I was really excited in 2016. I lived in Portland, Oregon, and I was a libertarian, and I didn't vote for Trump, and I didn't support Trump, but I opened my window right after the vote tallies came in, and I put my ear out, and I could hear the screeching. I could literally hear like the collective citywide screeching, like cries. And I was like, yeah, this is great. This is going to be hilarious. Maybe he will drain the swamp. Maybe he will end the warfare state. Maybe he will do, give the middle finger to the evil journalists in mainstream media, the enemy of the people. Maybe he will do all these things. And, within 6 months, John Bolton was working in his administration, and I'm going,
right,
what the hell? And he didn't pardon Julian Assange. He didn't pardon Snowden. He didn't pardon Ross Ulbricht. And he didn't end any wars. And in fact, he bolstered our positions in Syria. I mean, like it was like, and then it was it was like, I'm going to swamp even harder now. That's what it felt like, And so like, at what point do we go, yeah, well, he's not really going to stop anything. and none of the Republicans are. Nobody that's financed by, these foreign allegiant PACs and military industrial complex PACs are ever going to change anything, because that's what they want. And they're the puppet masters pulling all the strings on these people. You know what I mean? I'm not financed by AIPAC. I'm not financed by Raytheon. I'm not financed by Boeing. I'm not financed by any of these people. So I can say whatever I want, do whatever I want. And if I get the nomination, I get to go out and tell the American public how much these things have hurt the middle class, and I think that at some point you talk about this may be the end if we get more Joe Biden. I don't believe that. I don't think it will be. I think we'll probably have a world war no matter what, no matter who goes into the presidency. Honest to God, I really believe that. I think that Trump comes in and plays tough man with China and Russia and Iran, and now we have a giant superpower world war. And I think the same thing is going to happen with Joe Biden, only he's not pulling the strings. So, I don't think a lot's going to change. I honestly don't. I think we're going to still be on the same trajectory. And so I get to be at least I get to be the guy that's like, hey, we have a better way. And look, I'm under no illusion that should I start polling at 25%, the CIA won't take me out. Okay. I'm under no illusion that might happen. But we have got to start a movement in the United States of people who want to get back to the cultural identity of Americans, a strong family unit, faith, and freedom, man. And those are the basics. That's what this country was founded on. Really, I mean, it's really what we were created for. And if we continue to give our allegiance to foreign countries and military industrial complex and these Republicans and Democrats that don't support us and don't care about us at all, they only care about their own pet projects, we'll never get back there. No matter how important this election is. And that's, I hear this every 4 years. I've been working in politics for a while. This is the most important election of our lifetime. If we don't do it now, we lose forever. It's like, really? Really? Is that true? I don't think so. I mean, I've been hearing that since Reagan. We got to vote for Reagan. We got to stop the communists, And then Reagan came in and passed more gun legislation than any Republican in history, and
right.
And George Bush started more wars than anybody in history. And his son carried them on. And Trump came in and more gun legislation, no stop wars. I mean, have the Republicans really made it that much better in the United States? Or are they all kind of just working together to continue to use us as tax cattle and, carry out their murderous fantasies around the world? I mean, at some point we have to realize that they're not on our team. They're not going to save us. They're not coming to save us from whatever they're taking, this crazy downward spiral that they're taking us on. They're not coming to save us. Trump's not coming to save us. I mean, he doesn't care about us. He, he's got that strongman, patriotic, America first thing going, but he's got allegiances to other countries and Israel, and he's already talking about how they got to stand behind Ukraine. And it's that's not America first, man. That's not how America first works. I reject the notion that if we don't go and spend billions of dollars fighting wars for Israel, that we're not America first. I actually think it's quite the opposite, that if we're not taking care of the 12% of people in the United States today that can hardly feed themselves, then we're definitely not America first. And so, I don't buy into that notion. I haven't for a long time. I was, a kid during the Reagan era. Didn't really know a lot about politics, but I can study it, and Jimmy Carter, and then of course George Bush Sr. and Clinton and Obama, and I've gone back and forth between Republican strongman and Democrat socialist, and Republican strongman here to save us, Democrat socialist, and it's it hasn't changed. Nothing's changed. We're on the same trajectory we've been on since the 1980s. And at what point do we say, okay, enough is enough? Enough is enough. We're not dealing with these Republicans anymore. We're starting our own movement, and we're taking our country back. That's what it's going to take. It's not going to take voting for Donald Trump. We're all insane to think that it's going to, and I don't mean to take a dig at you, but I think it's insanity to think that somebody who was already president for 4 years is going to save us this time, right? And so I'm hoping that, at least at the very least, we open some eyes with this campaign. We say the important truth, the hard truth, the unvarnished truths about, the administrative state and the warfare state and the murder cult. And we change some minds, man, because it's got to happen sooner or later. That's what's important. And that's what should be important to everybody in the United States is family, faith, and freedom, man. Those are what we were built on. And we got to get back to that really, really soon.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, there's a lot to respond to there, and I don't want to like get over fixated on Trump because you know I wouldn't characterize everything the same way. I don't necessarily disagree with you fully on a lot of what you said either. But you know, I would just say like a couple quick things, and I don't want to necessarily chase all these trails, but you know, like for example, the immigration thing you mentioned that Trump, you know, that Obama stopped and deported more people than Trump, and I think the argument is, well, Trump's policies kept a lot of people from even trying to cross the border, and that's you know one fair argument. Stay in Mexico prevented a lot of people from even wanting to attempt the border crossing. But you know, and then there's things like I truly do think that that Donald Trump had good foreign policy. I know that he had a few hiccups, I would say, along the way. But we also, I mean, we've seen reports that top military leaders lied to him about how many troops were in Syria and things like that. And of course, you could say the buck stops with the president, you know, yada yada. But it's easy to say that. That doesn't mean, you know, if you truly are saying do A, but then they're ignoring A and doing B behind the scenes. I mean, that's not necessarily his fault. Obviously, he should pick better people. I completely agree with you. John Bolton, I think that he's horrible personnel choice. I think that's his biggest thing. I've heard a lot of individuals working on Agenda 25 where they're basically trying to prepare a cabinet so that if Donald Trump or any Republican were to take the office, there would be a cabinet of people already ready so that we don't have another wasted first term like Trump's first term. And I wouldn't say all of it was a waste. I would say that he did a lot of good things, crossing into North Korea, for example, and really taming a lot of the hostility there. I think on foreign policy, it was some of Trump's best. Was it perfect? No, but was it way better than any president in my lifetime? That's for sure. I was born under Clinton, so I'm not old, but still, it's a low bar, but it's still definitely a lot better. You know, but I do think that he didn't provide any change that lasted. I think Joe Biden was able to undo all of it. So I hope that we can get some lasting change. I hope that Congress will actually work hand in hand with whoever's in the White House in a positive way, as opposed to constantly coming up against Trump or whoever ends up being in office. You know, but either way, I think that there's definitely some real positives to Trump. I think the biggest issue is that very few of them, aside from the Supreme Court justices and the overturning of Roe v. Wade and things like that, I think aside from those things, a lot of it was not lasting change. But the Supreme Court was a huge win. Honestly, that's something that we shouldn't belittle. But you know, either way, so all that to say, like I don't fully agree with how you view it, but I don't think you're wrong in the fact that I think that there's no lasting change. I think that Trump's handling of COVID was abysmal. He could have done so much better. Now it's easy to armchair quarterback the thing. I think that there's probably a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we'll never fully know. But either way, I completely concede that 2020 was the worst.
Take the vaccine. I did it. It's good, right? Like
totally.
It was terrible.
Totally. And I completely disagree with it. I disavow completely.
I could have spent a whole show going off on the handling of COVID, but you probably know that already.
Oh, for sure. And I could too, and I have, as my audience knows.
I did like 2 years of shows on it.
Yeah. And I don't blame you.
I was pissed.
You know, so ultimately, like for me, it boils down to, like, for example, and I don't want to read this whole thing because it'd be long, but this is from Tennessee Conservative News. They're a state paper here in Tennessee. Tennessee's abortion ban leads to 25% increase in live births. So that's just an example of where I think incrementalism does provide some wins. Now, we can nitpick the study. Maybe it's not actually 25%, yada, yada, fudge the numbers. Everyone's going to find a study that they agree with. I get that to some degree. You can lie with statistics and numbers. But let's just take it at face value and say 25% increase in live births happened because of Tennessee's abortion ban. That's still huge. That's where I want to celebrate those incremental wins. You know, so trying to gather my wording here. I think that we are, like I said, the runway is running short. I want to make sure to emphasize that I agree with you. Trump is not going to save us. To me, I am just viewing it as I am a father of 2 small children, and I have to view it as ultimately what is going to be the safest bet in terms of who do I want to be essentially in charge of governing. At the end of the day, I don't think that we are voting for character. I think we are voting for policy, and what policy is going to give my kids the best chance. You mentioned that you've been hearing that's the most important election in our lifetime your whole life. I
Every 4
agree with
years.
that, but I will say it's gotten worse every single time. So to some degree, it's like, are they
Hey,
wrong? I mean, we're on the cusp of World War III.
Even after the Republicans,
Yeah,
So,
I agree, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that we've had no wins from the Republican side. So that's where, to me, I'm like, do I need to focus on biding more time, or do I do a Hail Mary pass and vote for a Joshua Smith ticket? Because
yeah, I mean,
if I knew you had a shot at winning,
right. Well, that's everybody's big gripe, right? But
it
like,
is.
here's the thing: like, all we have to do is poll at 15% in any of the big polls, like a Quinnipiac poll leading up to November. We get into debates, and really, that's to me the most important thing is to get on the debate and show like that compare and contrast, right? Like when we talk to the American public, it's like we're kept out of the debates. We're a national political party, major political party on the ballot in all 50 states. You can vote for me if I'm on your ballot. I'll be on your ballot in all 50 states, and you don't allow us in the debates. That's insanity to me. I mean, there'll probably be 3 names on all 50 state ballots. It'll be Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and Joshua Smith. Okay. And they won't allow me into the debates. That doesn't make any sense. So, the real big goal here is to poll at 15%, try to get up on the debate stage and say, talk about these issues in front of Americans, and bring up the things that, that I thought were bad with the Trump presidency and that I know were bad with the Biden presidency, and try to get Americans to at least hold these politicians accountable. Look, at the end of the day, even if you don't want to vote for me, you should want some competition, even for your politician, because there's nothing that keeps current modern day Republicans and Democrats honest, because there's no challenge to their seat at all. They know it's going to be them or the Democrat. That's it. That's all that anybody ever thinks about. So you're not giving them a challenge from an outsider. You're giving them a challenge from the establishment, and someone owns them and someone pulls the strings, and they're going to get what they want. And that's how it works. And so you should want at least to hold your politicians accountable by putting somebody else in the mix that's going to go up there and hold their feet to the fire and scare them, right? And so there's a lot of different quantifiable goals here. It's not like, look, I'm under no illusion that the Libertarians are going to win the presidency in 2024. We're going to fight like we want to win, and we're going to run like we want to win, and we're going to do 50 states, and we're going to do the media tours, and we're going to get in front of people, and we're going to hold rallies, and we're going to do all the things that a Republican and Democrat are going to do. But at the end of the day, you really have to think about it. We've been in this situation for a long time. We've watched Republicans, we can talk about the wins that we've gotten. The Democrats have given us, some freedom lovers wins every once in a while too, surprisingly. And we could talk about how
much more rare though. If we're
yes,
being
much
honest.
more rare, but
much more rare.
But it happens, right? And so at what point do we go, okay, this compromise of, oh, well, Tennessee had 25% more live births, but we passed more gun legislation, and we're starting another war in Iran, and we're sending a bunch of money to Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan, and dropping food supplies to Palestine while we're funding the IDF in Israel. And at what point do we go, enough is enough, man? Like, it's time. Like, I can't, I could say that there has been wins from the Republican Party. There has. I feel like very small amount of wins in a lot of areas, like self-defense, and the economy, of course, is not doing good, and has not been doing good in my entire lifetime since Reaganomics. There's been a little bit of incremental change up and a little bit of incremental change down, but really it's been the destruction of the middle class the entire time since Reagan. Okay, so at what point do we say these little tiny wins aren't enough anymore? I mean, we're all going to die, right? Like, at some point, we're in 50 years, I'm going to be dead, and did we really change that much, or did we just keep going along with the dog and pony show that gave us enough couple little wins here and there to keep us satisfied in our abysmal political sphere? And I'm just not happy with that anymore, and I don't want to leave that legacy to my children, right? I can't be so black-pilled that I'm like, yeah, well, I guess just this little bit of win here and there is fine, and I'll just go to my grave and leave my children a worse society than I lived in when I was, a kid. And I can't do it. And that's why I'm doing this, right? People are like, why are you running for president? Because I got children, man. That's my why. I don't want to see a better society, a freer, stronger family, stronger cultural identity for Americans. And I want to get back to those things that made us great, that made us truly great. When we hear that, America first, make America great again, like that's really what that slogan means a lot to me, a lot. And I want to see somebody represent those principles in the right way. So
Yeah, and that's fair. I think to me though, when I hear sort of the plan you laid out about the 15% and trying to get on the debate stage, to me, and I'm not saying to me, I honestly just don't think that there's going to be debates this year. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I hope I am. I hope that we can see a little bit more of a normal election cycle. But personally, I just don't think that there's going to be presidential debates. I think that we're getting to the point where I think Joe Biden is going to, say that he can't legitimize Donald Trump by debating him, and he's going to stay in the basement, and the media is going to run his campaign for him, similar to what they did in 2020. And I don't know if they can be as successful. We don't have all of the same rules under COVID. A lot of them stayed, so they've got a good shot at it. I honestly think that it's more likely that Joe Biden will win as right now than Donald Trump. I hope I'm wrong about that, but that would be my guess. But you say if I'm polling at 15%, I'm going to get on that debate stage. I mean, I don't know if they're going to let you. Just being honest, I just don't know if they're going to let you. So at the end of the day,
well,
again,
if they have a debate and we're polling at 15%, the law requires the PDC to let us into the debate. This is the way that Ross Perot got in the debate, running as a third party candidate. It was polling at 15% and higher at some point. So they have to. It's part of their own bylaws. Now, I'm not. Again, under the illusion that they wouldn't go out of their way to try and change the bylaws in the committee. And but at the same time too, you bring up Biden saying not legitimizing Trump by being involved in the debates. I mean, Trump just did that to the entire Republican field. So
I agree. He didn't help his cause. I think that he's basically, in my opinion, him not debating any of the Republican hopefuls in the primary, to me, just was the nail in the coffin for the fact that, yep, there you go, Trump. You just made it to where now there's not going to be any debates in the general. And maybe they were already going to do that, but he gave them the perfect excuse. Now they can just point to that and say, hey, you didn't even debate your primary opponents. So why would we debate you? You're not going to legitimize.
I feel like Trump would absolutely want to be involved in a debate with Joe Biden at this point, because I think I realize how Joe Biden's mental faculties are not there. I don't know how Biden could do another 4 years, to be honest with you. I mean, the guy can hardly walk, and so
oh, we lost you, Joshua. Hopefully you come back. All right. Well, Jesse, I am planning on getting to your comment in just a moment, as soon as we can. Oh, Joshua is back. Go ahead and continue, Joshua.
Did you lose me? Is what happened?
Yeah, we lost you for a moment there.
Where was I at? What was I talking about?
We were talking about the debates, not legitimizing.
I think I was just saying I don't see how Biden could run another 4 years. I'm sure at some point they're going to try and this is a conspiracy theory, but I believe that they're going to try and shoehorn a Gavin Newsom or something in there last minute, and somebody charismatic that the Democrats already respect and love, and I would not be surprised to see that happen over the next 2 or 3 months. Really, I wouldn't.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to happen anymore. I was suspicious of that. I think they were maybe testing the waters, and to be honest, I don't think Gavin Newsom actually polls as good as Joe Biden, believe it or not.
I don't think any Democrat in the Democrat Party right now could beat Donald Trump other than Joe Biden, and I think they know that. Which is
ridiculous to think, but they're gonna weekend at Bernie's.
Can we talk about how sad it was that the Biden campaign is so hard up that they actually had to bring the Kennedy family in for endorsements?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Oh,
I love it.
God, it was
there was fire in Camelot. It was it was great to see. Yeah. Jesse Hughes asked a question here, so I wanted to get to it. He said, "I agree with much of what you're saying, but given the state of most mainstream libertarians, how do you plan to win the nomination on your platform, specifically with abortion abolition?"
Sure. So here's the thing: is this kind of essence of this mainstream libertarian thing that he's kind of bringing up was really the small, vocal minority of libertarians that were in the Libertarian Party. Now, I could get way into this backstory, but I started running for the national leadership of the Libertarian Party in 2017 against the chairman, Nick Sarwark at the time, who was kind of the figurehead of that wing that Jesse's talking about there. And we worked very, very hard to kind of physically remove these people from the Libertarian Party and get that back on track. We actually removed our abortion plank entirely from the platform for the National Party, which used to say we understand that there's good faith arguments on both sides, and so we don't take a side. We actually at the last national convention were able to get that removed through a three-quarters of the delegation vote. There's a huge cultural and paradigm shift in the libertarian movement right now, and a lot of it is becoming more in line with what I think libertarian values are. And my platform is written very clearly on my website, joshuasmith2024.com, about the protection of the preborn being the right to life, and being one of the central tenets of libertarian thought. It is, you have the right to life. That has to be extended to preborn babies, or we're not protecting the right to life. And so I've been able to make a really good argument on this, even without using my faith, which is, obviously the most important thing to me. But I've been able to make really good arguments about this, especially on my platform with other libertarians that have kind of come around on this issue. But the vast majority of like the rank and file libertarians in the United States are like middle America, blue collar, working class conservatives, dude, like legitimately that refuse to work with the Republican Party. And there's been a really big push by them to get rid of this like thought that pro-choice on everything makes you a libertarian. And I've been really happy to see it. I have a lot of support from libertarians around the country with my stance on abortion and my stance on borders too. And so I think there was like a thirst for it, almost, for somebody to come out and say these things, because I'm the only candidate in the Libertarian Party. I'm the only candidate in the country really that has these views on abortion, but also, I mean, I'm definitely the only libertarian candidate with these views on immigration as well. So, and we're polling. I mean, we're winning every straw poll in the party. I've been at the top of every poll. There's currently a large straw poll going on for the national debate, because we have our national convention at the end of next month. And there's a debate, and they only allow the top 5 straw poll vote getters to be in the debate. And you actually have to pay with your dollars in that vote. That's how they're running it this year. And we're winning that poll by over $1,000 right now. Like, and nobody's even close. So like, there's a real thirst for these ideas in the libertarian movement. I think that one of the reasons why we've done so badly is because, in 2016, when we had our best showing, we're running against Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and we got this guy out there going, "Oh, well, my name's Gary Johnson, and I'm socially liberal and economically fiscal or fiscally conservative," and like people are like, "No, that just sounds boring and stupid." And I'm coming in and saying brave things. I think we have a really good shot to get that 5% that makes us a major national political party and gets us into the debates, going forward, and gets us federal matching funds and makes it so we don't have to continue to spend millions of dollars every year fighting for ballot access. So I really think there's a good opportunity for libertarians this year. And it's precisely for those reasons, because we're not going out there giving this, milquetoast kind of watered down version of Republicans and Democrats. I'm going out there and saying things that need to be said, like truthfully, honestly, and bravely. And I think that changes a lot. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I was to lay out my hopes for your campaign, because I do have them, honestly, my hopes for your campaign is that you move the Overton window, and that you honestly, I would love it if you're able to get up on the debate stage. I honestly just want to see you push Trump back to the right, honestly. Yeah. And as you do that, I hope that, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I'm just telling you my daydream here. I hope that you push him to become more right wing. I hope that you push him to become an abolitionist in his stances, and I hope that you push him to bribe you and give you a position in his cabinet if you drop out of the race and endorse him. Like that. That's the kind of thing that I see. I've had Clint Russell on the podcast a couple of times. I mean, Joshua Smith, Clint Russell ticket. That'd be really tempting to me.
Very likely ticket, my friend. Very likely.
It is, yep. And that excites me. But that was kind of what Clint was telling me as well. He kind of just hopes that he can make Trump better by running against him. And I hope that he concedes a few things to the right because of you guys. And maybe you guys can end up working together and be a part of his cabinet, so he doesn't have a John Bolton next time. Maybe he'll have a Joshua Smith instead of a John Bolton. And we don't have to see a Trump administration that is constantly fighting itself to get anything done, let alone fighting Congress. So that's my hope for your campaign. And then as far as like the libertarian movement in general, first of all, you guys got to do something about the Libertarian Party of Louisiana, because my goodness, they are 100% the meme of all the worst things that you think about.
It's like two people. It's two people there in particular. I know who they are that are running that social media. It's not the whole state Libertarian Party is not like that. I promise you.
Well, that's good, but they are 100%, for those in the audience who don't know, they are 100% we're the libertarians who fight for your right to own a tank so that you can defend the drag queen story hour from all the bigots out there. And it's like, that's who the Libertarian Party of Louisiana is. And
you're not winning the culture war like that, guys.
100% disgusting. I like the Mises Caucus. I like a lot of things the Mises Caucus has done, but my one last bit of input, if I was to give it unsolicited, is the Free State Project in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is still a blue state for the most part, at least in terms of how it votes presidentially.
They're really good on guns, though. Really good on guns.
They are really good on guns, but it feels like that's the only real libertarian strain that I see running in New Hampshire. So my thought, just as someone who's thinking about this practically, is how can we trust the libertarian ticket at the presidential level when they haven't even won a governor's mansion, for example? And so my thought is, why doesn't the Libertarian Party cut its teeth by trying to fully flip New Hampshire into the first solid libertarian state? And I know that's kind of what the Free State Project is trying to do, but it seems like it's been going on for several years, and maybe something I don't, but I don't see real victories happening in New Hampshire.
There are definitely some victories in New Hampshire, and I've seen legislative victories happen. There was a long time where the libertarians that were running for office in New Hampshire ran as either a Republican or a Democrat. There was actually libertarians that ran as Democrats and got elected to their state legislature. I know personally at least 4 libertarians who had been elected to the legislature as Republicans. Now they have gotten wins on personal defense and some of their taxes, and they've gotten little wins here and there. And so I like the Free State Project. I think what they're doing is wonderful, and I wish more people would try to kind of coalesce in certain areas and take over at least your municipality, because that's really where you can make the biggest difference anyways, right? But I hold strong to the fact, so I'm a Midwest, I'm from Oakland, California, born and raised. I grew up in Oakland. I lived there until I was well into my late 30s. And I did spend 6.5 years in Portland, Oregon, too. But I live in the Midwest now, and I moved here right as they started the 24-hour lockdowns in San Francisco in 2020 for COVID. I moved here to be with my, at the time, girlfriend, my wife, my mother, my kids. And I think that the Midwest is the place that we should be doing a Free State projects, man, especially somewhere like Iowa, where there's 1.7 million people in Iowa. The state already heavily leans conservative, freedom loving, like old timey, farmer status. We've got currently actual Mises libertarians serving in our state legislature as Republicans, like Jeff Shipley, who's amazing, and Senator Carlin, and these. Senator Carlin is a medical malpractice lawyer and a doctor. He got both degrees. And he went in there and they fought the COVID regime. In fact, they outlawed the mask mandate entirely. They told OSHA to kick rocks. They said that if you wanted to do business in the state of Iowa, you couldn't force vaccinate your employees. They didn't shut down. They passed constitutional carry. They're now currently working on a bill to nullify all federal gun laws. This state is perfect. If you really wanted to concentrate libertarians or just anybody who wants freedom and conservative, faith, family, freedom values, like, this is the place to do it. Iowa really is. We didn't send a single Democrat to Washington. Now, I'm not saying the Republicans that we sent to Washington have been great either. Okay.
Yeah.
But we didn't send we even took Axne off the ballot and got her out of there, right? Like, so we didn't send a single Democrat to Washington. You're welcome, America. But this is the place where it needs to be done. I think that doing it in New Hampshire, New Hampshire is really cool and beautiful and a great state, and I love the Free State Project, and I think they have gotten wins, and I think they should continue doing what they're doing. They're doing it in the middle of like socialist land.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
They're across the border from Massachusetts, for crying out loud. I mean, that's, you guys are just asking for a land war. You know what I mean? And so, I appreciate it. I think they're doing good. Now, the Libertarian Party has not ever been in the business of trying to concentrate libertarians in one area. They're not a part of that. Now, the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire has started growing and getting bigger because they kind of kicked out all these, loser, what we call lolberts, that were like, I'm just culturally liberal.
Yeah.
And, we've gotten rid of those people. I mean, they're not serving in the party. In fact, they started their own party now called the Keystone Party or something like that. So they actually left and started their own party because of us, because of the people like us. We won. We did, it took us 4.5 years and we took over an entire national political party, the third largest political party in the country. So when people are like, oh, we have to work inside the Republican Party and take that over, I go, man, you guys realize that the corruption is so deeply entrenched in that party, for decades and decades and decades, that it would take millions of people to go into that party to change it. But we have this party over here that has 50 state ballot access and has a full process and has 50 state affiliates and has the groundwork laid that we could just join and make the biggest party in the United States if we wanted to. And that's kind of the angle that we came from with the Mises Caucus, because I was one of the founding members of the Mises Caucus in 2017.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the angle we were taking. It's like, well, let's see how easy it would be to take over this national political party and make them more principled. And dude, it took 4 years. And we had the whole party. We had the national party. We had 42 of the 50 state affiliates. We were running candidates all over the country, getting wins at the local level, which was important to us. Right. And now we're at a place where it's wow, let's grow the party. Let's make the party this actual battle axe to go and fight these two old parties that have been oppressing, their own constituencies for generations. And I think we could do it. I really do. I think that more people like you are going to start to realize it and see it and start to come over. And we're going to make the real radical changes that need to be made in this country to get back to faith, family, and freedom, man. I really do. I believe that.
I hope so. Because, at the end of the day, I really don't think when I said that I thought our country only had a few years left, I mean the America as we currently view it. I think we're going through a transformation. I'm not saying America overnight is just going to be off the map. I'm saying that I think that we're going to see some real changes here. Should the election go south, that I think are going to make America permanently altered in a way that we probably can't undo or won't be able to undo for a long, long time at least.
Sure.
But I truly am very encouraged because the balkanization, the big sort that's taken place, is making red states redder and it's making blue states bluer. And obviously I don't want there to be conflict between the states. I don't like that aspect, but I like the aspect of federalism actually playing out. Yeah. And for that reason, I think that there is still real opportunity for states' rights to really have a resurgence and to really see states like Tennessee or Iowa or New Hampshire, if they can get their crap together, actually having thriving economies, thriving cultures that focus on faith, family, and freedom. And so I am definitely not, I'm not pessimistic to the point where if Joe Biden wins in November, I'm giving up. I'm really not. It's more of is this national project going to continue on with some semblance of what it is supposed to be? And it's already so damaged and so abused from what it was intended to be. And we don't have time to talk about that. We all know. But I am still hopeful that we can see some real federalism take place. And that's why, to me, I would be so much more likely to vote Libertarian if I saw Libertarians Yep, Iowa's our state. This is the state that Libertarians, we want it. We have a governor. We have we have majority in legislature, and people who come here are coming here because they want freedom. They want constitutional freedom. But anyways, I can go on that all night. But yeah, Joshua, where can people go to find you and keep up with everything that you're doing? And feel free to give us any closing thoughts.
Sure. So definitely follow me on Twitter. That's kind of where I'm at war with all the other politicians, right? That's you can find me there at Joshua at large. Go check out the website, joshuasmith2024.com. That's the presidential website. You can see our videos there. You can see our platform there. You can see the things that are important to us. You can sign up for the email list. You can donate to the campaign if you want to see me become a competitor to the two old parties. These people are financial leviathans. I mean, juggernauts. It's absolutely insane. They spend hundreds of billions of dollars to run these campaigns. And if you want us to compete, I mean, we got to raise money, and our money spends much further than the Republicans and Democrat money does. I mean, I think last time I checked, we were, less than way under $1 a vote, and they're paying like $50 a vote. So, I mean, it's really absolutely insane. So, so you can do that. You can also sign up to volunteer for the campaign. We have a volunteer web form there as well for you guys. Check out my show, Break the Cycle with Joshua Smith. We do it every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. corn time, as we like to say, but that's Central Time here in Iowa. Look, like I said, I'm just a blue collar working class guy, right? Like, this campaign is more about like the people like me than it is about me. I don't want this to be like some ego-filled campaign. I think we've done a lot better than I thought I was going to do in the beginning. I kind of made this as a challenge to the Libertarian Party because we weren't running a good candidate that I thought was going to take up the banner that I wanted to see someone take up. Now we're actually competing. We're actually winning straw polls. We're actually, winning straw polls over people like Robert Kennedy outside of the Libertarian Party. So we're doing things that make us legitimate to this campaign and election. So I really think that we have a shot to kind of, like you said, push the Overton window, move the national conversation. That's the important thing, right? Like, like I said in the beginning of all this, there's a lot of other quantifiable goals other than just winning. And one of them is absolutely pushing the national conversation in a more hard right wing direction. I mean, that's really what we're going to have to do. And I say it a lot on Twitter that the pendulum swing is going to be hard and fast. And I'm trying to add to that. I'm trying to push that pendulum back like the rest of you guys are. I've just positioned myself in a unique position to kind of take up the mantle and go out and be that mouthpiece for people. And if that resonates with you, if the faith, family, and freedom, the vote for vengeance, any of the campaign slogans that we use, ending the warfare state, fighting back against the Federal Reserve fiat created inflation, the opting out of the corporate farming structure and letting people grow their own food. If any of these things that are super important to us resonate with you, please go and check us out and give us your support.
Awesome. And to dig into that a little bit more, if someone is wanting to see a Joshua Smith Libertarian ticket, but maybe they're not sold on voting you in the general, are they able to vote in the Libertarian primary? I'm not actually super familiar with the Libertarian primary and how that's going to all shake up. So what does that look like?
This will come down to our national convention at the end of the month, next month. So Memorial Day weekend in Washington, D.C. We're going into the belly of the beast. Thousands of libertarians will be there. And essentially the way it works is each state has their own state convention. They nominate a certain amount of delegates depending on how many registered libertarian voters they have in the state. That delegates how many delegates they get to the national convention. It'll probably be somewhere around 11 to 1,200 delegates will show up to the national convention, and they'll hear us debate the top 5 candidates. They'll hear us debate. It'll be on C-SPAN and other news outlets. And then they will have a vote. They will have a paper ballot vote to see who gets the nomination from the party. And it's 50% plus one. So if nobody gets 50% on the first ballot, they drop the lowest vote getters and they reballot. They do a whole nother vote until somebody gets 50% plus one, and whoever that first person past 50% is the nominee. And like I said, I'm optimistic. I've done a lot of work. I've gone to a lot of state conventions. I've done a lot of media. Obviously, been on Tim Pool 3 times. Been on Stu Peters 3 times. Been on great podcasts like yours every night for months and months and months. And so I think that we've done enough, and I think that we have enough support. I'm hearing a lot of rumblings from straw polls around at state conventions that we're winning. And we're currently winning the national straw poll. So I think that there's a good chance I'm the nominee in May. In fact, probably the best chance out of all the candidates, maybe 2 other competitors other than me at this point. So I'm really optimistic, and I hope to get that nomination. Now, there's a large contingency out there that says they'll write me in if I don't get the nomination, which is fine. That's all fine and dandy. You guys should vote with your conscience, but I don't think that if we should be a write-in vote that I will get anywhere near the credit that I would if I'm on 50 state ballots. And with the nomination, I'll be on all 50 states. We're working on New York. It might be hard to get on New York, but I'm optimistic we get on New York's too. But we'll definitely guaranteed 49 state ballots. Probably 50.
Awesome. Not that you need New York anyways.
Yeah. They're not going to vote for me, right? Well, those upstaters, man, they're really tired of this
true.
shit. I know that.
That's
for sure.
true. So. That's true. Well, thanks. I really appreciate it, Joshua. Thanks for staying a little bit late. Appreciate that as well. And those of you listening, feel free to go to our Substack, Forge and Anvil.substack.com. You can sign up for free to get free content. And then, of course, you can do a paid tier if you'd like some additional content. And it helps out the show, helps us grow, helps us get great guests like Joshua. So appreciate all of you. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.